Perspective. Maybe we should just tell stories about how when things go horrible, you actually don't have a real problem and you should be grateful.
I agree.
I feel like both of us are having that day right now.
Oh, I'm having a day.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm having a day. I feel like somebody just like I said, I walked in the door of your house today and I feel like somebody clotheslined me with a frying pan. Like it was horrible. It was horrible. Just like a day where everything goes wrong, like one thing after another, and you just can't catch up. That's the type of day I've had.
Do you want to use this as a therapy session? Do you want to
Yes. Can we actually like put me on like your chair upstairs, the one that like?
The one in the library.
Oh yes,
Which
yes.
is probably even more accurate.
Yes, I don't know what that chair is called, but
chase.
Yeah,
it's like a chase.
Chase,
but you can't pronounce it chase. It's chase.
Okay, I want one of those.
Nailed it.
In the chair in the library. You saying the chair in the library gives perspective. We should not complain about anything. You have a chase in your library.
That's a good level of awareness. That's a good way. Well, so that's actually a good way to transition into how do you actually learn perspective?
Oh goodness.
I think the first step is really awareness.
Yes.
Because if you don't have any self-awareness or social awareness or situational awareness whatsoever, you can't tell if you're in a good situation, a bad situation, and you can't remember like the actual situation that you're in. So like a quick example for me is if I'm having a challenging day, which we all do, right? One, you remember that you're not alone in a challenging day. But I think the second piece to that is if I look around and I measure my day-to-day quote-unquote problems, I'm pretty sure 99% of the people on the planet would kill for that problem. Because everybody has problems, but what type of problems do you have? Like when I went to the Bahamas, and the perfect example, when I went to the Bahamas, not like, hey, I would like to go to the Bahamas. When we went to the Bahamas, I saw a guy putting a boat inside of his other boat. Like that guy's got my boat that goes inside my boat has an engine problem. Like that's a totally different problem than I've ever experienced, that most people have ever experienced, right?
Yeah.
So that guy can have a bad day and nobody cares.
Yeah.
So perspective.
Yeah. There you go. That's the podcast. Yeah, no, it's definitely awareness and being able to like ground yourself. Like, yes, you're having a problem, but how big is the problem? And if you look around, is it like what's around you? Like, is it that big? Like,
I like the way that you put that, ground yourself. What do you mean by that?
Like today, I was really angry because we recorded a whole podcast episode and the camera cut and I was editing it and I didn't know that the camera cut. So we're missing a whole angle. You'll see it. They already saw it. This would be the episode before this.
Oh, so
they saw it. You'll see it. And I was so mad. I was like, this is a great start to my day, finding this out, editing this episode. Horrible. But then like I think about it and I'm like, okay. It's not that bad. I'm recording a podcast. I've always wanted to have a podcast.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And you're doing great with it.
Yes. And you're doing great with it. And
we're the best.
and
the humblest.
Yes. And the humblest. We're so humble. And I was recording it on my thousands of dollars of equipment.
Oh yeah.
And I was editing it on my MacBook Pro. And I'm in my house. That's a great house. And I'm really not having that bad of a day. Like at the end of the day, it's a problem, but it's a problem that I'm going to overcome. And this is not going to be detrimental to our lives.
Yeah.
This little problem, we're going to learn from it.
So by the time you ground yourself, you're like, I'm a terrible person.
Yes. Every single time. Every time I ground myself, I'm like, oh, I should not be complaining right now. It's totally fine. I'm actually like happier.
Yeah. So one of the things that I like to think about when I think about perspective and situational awareness is none of our problems are actually real.
No.
So to change perspective is perfect example is you're editing the podcast and one of the cameras cuts out. We don't know. So we just have one angle, which by the way, you could be grateful for having the one angle still.
Yes.
And it's a great shot.
Yes.
And the people on the shot
grateful that we had the people.
Grateful we had the people. You still have the audio, which is way more important in a podcast, is that you have the audio.
The equipment didn't break itself.
Yeah.
Like we had the equipment. Like
you're sitting on a beautiful patio for the shot. Like it's an awesome day. Like,
yes.
Everything went right except for that camera shutting off for 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
10 minutes, whatever it was. So one of the ways that I like to think about perspective, especially with what you're talking about, just using that as an example, is usually when we think that we have a real problem, the problem's right here.
Yes, it's just the problem that's in your face.
It's directly in our face, and we have to do this.
You're just blinded by it.
Yeah, you have to step back. So
Yeah.
this little itty bitty problem, when you put it close enough to your face, it becomes huge.
Yes.
It's like the only thing that you can see, and then you just see red and rage and why is this happening to me? And now I have this. Now I'm having a bad day. I've actually really, really been working on never saying I'm having a bad day, because I might have had a moment that was less than the expectation that I set for it. But the rest of the day has just been the day. I'm just carrying it to the next moment. So it's funny when you walked in and said that. I was like, hey, me too today. Because I've been fighting through weird cancellations of like P.O. box stuff that's important or I think is important. But what's funny is by the time I got to the P.O. box to solve the problem, I was like, I actually don't want it here. I want it at another place.
Yeah.
So I'm actually grateful that happened.
Yeah.
But that couldn't have happened in the first 20 minutes of it happening, because I'm like, I just need to find a door to slam.
I literally walked into the door of your house. We looked at each other and we were like, oh, it's been a day. We spent the first 15 minutes just like de-escalating everything that had happened.
Yeah, let's just get to a baseline that
Yes.
we can operate off of.
And then after the 15 minutes happened, then we were like, okay, we should talk about perspective today.
Yeah.
Because we both need that.
Yeah, you had that idea right away.
Oh, I knew before I even got here. I was like, because I used to have such a problem with one thing happening and it would ruin my entire day, or like just the smallest like thing goes wrong and it really like puts me out. And after like really working on perspective and being able to like step away from the problem has actually, like today, that's why I wanted to talk about it, was because wow, I've grown so much. When I had the problems today, I was able to step away from them and realize, hey, this is not so bad, and I'm still going to record this podcast, and it's going to be a good day. Like, it'll be fine.
Where do you think that first initial feeling comes from? That level of just pain that it is. Like, hey, because your first gut reaction is, my day's ruined.
Oh,
like,
where does that come from?
Yeah, why do you think that is?
I don't know.
Because there's a lot of people that struggle. I don't want to say everyone struggles with that. I'm sure not everybody struggles with that. But I bet it's a majority.
It's a large amount of people, I feel like.
Yeah.
Where something small happens and you just like...
And the key there is small, because that goes back to relativity too. Of like just perspective, like what's small and what's big.
Right.
But hey, if it's something small, as an example, like, hey, we're missing an angle on an episode.
I mean, I would give even a better example of small. My like liquid blush exploded in my makeup bag today. That's small. Like, that's easy. I just have to clean up a mess. But that really set me over the edge. I was like, yep, that'll do it. Like, just something even that small.
That was the one.
That was after the episode I was dealing with that.
That was the straw.
Yeah, I literally said, that'll do it.
I love that response. That'll do.
But
That'll do it. One of my favorite episode, or one of my favorite scenes in a movie ever. Have you ever seen Tommy Boy? Tell me you've seen Tommy. Really? We'll have to watch Tommy Boy together. That's an opportunity. See, I turned that into an opportunity instead of being disgusted.
Okay.
One of my favorite scenes ever in that movie is that he's sitting on a bench and the bench breaks, and like he's having a day, and he's sitting there just legs spread, and he goes, "Could have done without that."
Yeah, that's exactly what that moment was for me.
I think about that moment so much, because like there's so many things that happen. And go, could have done without that. But even in that movie, I know you haven't seen it, but like that perspective even changes over time, because like he turns things around, and like it's a big learning lesson. But
where do you think like that initial feeling comes from, or like why?
So I'm pretty solidified in this.
Okay.
Actually, I've thought about this before. I've done my normal nerd research, but what I really think it comes from is, because this really happens a lot with high achievers, is I think it comes from high expectation of self. So one of the things that we talked about when you noticed that the angle or the camera had shut off while editing, it's at the end of the edit too. So like you had gone.
I edited the entire. I spent like 4 hours in the last 2 days editing this podcast, only to get to the last 10 minutes and find out that you're not there. Poof, gone.
Poof, gone. You can just put Boo from Mario there, King Boo.
I might.
Ghost. But I believe it comes from a high expectation of self. So you set really high expectations for yourself because you're a high achiever. So a lot of high achievers, I think, are going to deal with that. But I think the people who not only achieve the most, but the people who achieve the most peace and are able to share it with others and move forward even in times of struggle or challenge is that they understand it's just part of the process. It comes with the territory.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like we've talked about it before up to this point. Those episodes will be out. We've talked about how it comes with the territory, like error, like failing, you learn from it. So
Yeah.
I think it does.
Yeah, failure is not, the absence of success. It's actually the reason for success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like that's just another learning curve we have. Okay, well, we should keep a better eye on our cameras while we're recording.
Yeah, now we shouldn't even tell them.
Don't tell them.
Did you know? Did you know that the screen turns all the way around on the cameras and we can watch and see if they're still recording? Just like right now, I can see that it's good.
My Canon's, the camera, the screen
learned
turns
that-
around so we can see ourselves right now.
It only took 5 episodes. We're good.
5 episodes in and we find out that we don't find out because we knew.
She's a professional videographer and photographer. We just learned this. Yeah, we just applied it.
Yeah, we just applied it. We turned it around and we're like, oh, now we know if the camera's cut or if the battery dies because that happened too. We've dealt with cameras cutting,
Yep.
no reason, batteries dying.
The battery dying one was actually worse because we lost like 25 minutes.
Yeah, like that
of-
episode probably won't come out. Like
yeah,
full.
I don't know if it can.
Yeah, but
Just because it would be too choppy. It wouldn't make sense anymore.
yeah, you'll probably see parts of it. They'll see parts of it, but it won't come out.
Well, hey, that's another
Perspective.
great perspective change there is because you went, you know what? It's not going to be great in a long form sense. It's not going to be up to the level of quality that we want to be able to put out and share with people. But what it can be is it can be cut up into shorts and reels and things like that. So the super valuable parts will still get out.
Yeah, like the most important parts I'm going to cut up and post it so that it still gets out there because I think the things we said, it was a good episode.
Yeah.
But
I think that's what was frustrating about it.
yeah, because that was the first episode that we filmed where we both walked in, we felt confident. We felt together that day when we sat down to film it.
Yeah.
And then that happened. So that's why it was frustrating, but it's still going to go out.
Yeah, because when you get together, you're not always going to be on the same page.
No.
You're not always going to walk in feeling good. You're not always going to walk
Yeah.
in. You feel good and then I don't.
Well,
Like,
today we were on the same page.
for sure, it just wasn't the page that you normally want to be on. Are you on the back cover? Me too.
Let's do this.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I am solidified in the thought that it comes from high achievement. Now, there's also the other end of the spectrum where there are people who really, really struggle, don't achieve much, and call themselves perfectionists.
Elaborate.
So, perfect example is what we're doing right now. We both didn't feel great coming into this.
Yeah.
We are probably feeling better as we go here.
Oh, absolutely.
I think there's actually a lesson to be told and to be heard if you're watching this. I think it's important that you see the transparency and you see that they don't feel good all the time, but they're still doing it. Like you can't only work and produce when you feel good because you'll only produce 10% of the time then.
Oh, absolutely. You're not going to wake up every day and feel thriving and have bunches of energy.
No,
and
one day a week maybe.
Yeah, like once a week, I wake up and I'm like, this is the day. This is a get things done day.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be so productive today. But the other days I still work.
Yeah, which
still-
really goes back to our Elastic Habits training. So if
Yes.
you haven't watched that video after this, go back and watch the Elastic Habits podcast episode. And there's also a free training that we offer about that. So you can click the link down in the description. You can check that out because it'll teach you how to have grace for yourself and flexibility in your habit building. That way you can move forward instead of get held back by, well, I don't feel good today. I don't feel like it was good enough today. Like whatever the excuse inside your head is, it'll eliminate that.
Yeah.
But to that point is, the perspective on the other end, like anybody viewing or anybody listening to this has the ability to learn from that. They get to see a positive example in that. So I think that's really important too. So you can even see these challenging days. You can see them as test days. Like when you show up, if you went through traditional schooling or public school or anything like that, and there's always, there's a test on Friday or whatever it may be. Like that is an example that no one feels good. There's a few people that feel good going into a test. We all know who those people are. And if you're those people,
It's not us.
good for you. Good for you. We're proud of you. We're happy for you.
So glad you studied.
So glad. But a lot of people don't feel good going into a test, but they still get it done. And then, sometimes they get a better result than they even expected. And I think that's one of the lessons in life is even if you don't feel good, you can just take it mentally as a perspective shift as this is just a test day. How can I perform on a test day?
Yeah, and there's even, like you were saying, there's times when you have a bad day or you go into something and you're not feeling like doing it,
Yeah.
or you're not feeling up to par, and it's some of the best things that you produce. Like you find that you have the best experiences from it. Like I've done, I mean, for example, photo shoots where I'm on the job and I'm like, I do not feel this. These pictures are not going to be my best. And I've edited them. I've gotten to like post and I'm like, oh my goodness, I love these so much. And I killed this even though I didn't feel like it.
Do you think it's because you end up focusing harder because you're aware that you're not like in the zone?
Yeah. I think it's like a snowball. Like when I'm on the shoot, if I'm not feeling it, it's just gonna, it's almost like insecurity coming out. Like I'm like, oh, okay, this is not good. This is not good. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, how do I fix this? And then you start focusing on the smaller things instead of like the grand picture.
Because motivation's fake and momentum's real.
Yes.
Yeah, because once you get the, yeah, I mean, you said it, like once you get the ball rolling, it's funny how you immediately feel better. Like
Yeah.
you will become more motivated. It's because you're actually technically getting a small drip of dopamine.
I was about to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're getting a small little like low dosage of dopamine and the receptors are starting to pick up on it and you start to feel better.
Yeah, that's like when you're having a bad day and you make, like for me at least, when I'm having like an unproductive day or I wake up like not feeling like it and I make a to-do list. Once I get like the first thing on that to-do list crossed off, like I feel the dopamine of crossing it off.
Yeah.
I'm good and I'm productive and I can like get the ball rolling and then it like snowballs.
For someone who's inherently negative, like what do you think about that? Because a lot of this, like, you know, we wanted to talk about perspective. Obviously, we want to talk about shifting it from a negative space to a positive space. So how do you think you go about that? Is it just, now I think the first step is awareness. Like you have to be aware that
The first step is,
I have a choice in this. I can respond and not emotionally react.
Right.
Those are two very different things.
yeah, how I respond is going to determine how this goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, there's obviously more challenging things than others, and there's always going to be people that say, like, well, what about this? There's no way I couldn't have reacted to that. That's fine, but you can also put it in the perspective of, speaking of perspective, you can also put it in the perspective of like, I've only had that level of reaction, you know, one time in a month, or one time in my life, or one time in 12 months. Like, that's, if you come from the other end, the other angle, that's pretty solid.
Yeah, there's also something to say for like, I mean, if something happens, like give yourself if it's small, give yourself 5 minutes. Like, you know, like if you need to react to it, like give yourself 5 minutes, but don't let it.
Yeah. Do you actually give yourself a time? Like, are you aware of that?
Oh.
Do you go like, hey, you almost categorize whatever you're going through, and if it falls in this tier, like I only get 5 minutes. If it falls in this tier, I can have an hour or whatever.
Yeah, like mentally, if I wake up and I'm like not having a good day, the first thing I do is give myself an hour of like sit and read or do something like low energy. I'll give myself an hour to just feel it out and like mope. And then I'll be like, okay, at 9 o'clock, it's over. Like, that's it. And I'll give myself like a deadline.
What does wake up and not feel it mean to you? Like describe that. Can you paint a picture of that?
Yeah, because I felt it today. Wake up and you roll over, the alarm's going off, and you're just like, I'm tired. I don't want to leave my bed. I mean, I was up late last night, so that could be it. But like tired, don't want to leave your bed. And then like you get out of bed and the thought of doing like the first task on your to-do list is like daunting. You're like, this just doesn't, it's just, I'm not feeling it today.
Yeah. This goes back to awareness as well, but also cognition. You are aware that you're making the choice that you are. So I think a lot of people will feel that, but then they got to go into a job that they hate.
That too.
So it's like, all right, how do I switch my perspective on this thing that definitely takes from me and I would love nothing more than to eliminate it from my life? Well, I think the first step is you go, that's the first time I recognize that I have the ability to do that. I actually have a choice.
Right. I say that all the time.
Yeah.
Anytime, I tell my friends this all the time. Like if I complain about my job in front of my friends who have like a job that they go into and they don't like, the first thing that I say is, I don't even want to complain right now because I am so grateful for my job. I don't even want to complain because I'm in the position where if a day like this happens or something goes wrong, I have the power to change it myself.
Yeah.
And I'm making the choice to have this job. So like I'm grateful that I woke up today and I could take that hour to not do anything.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to show up at 9 o'clock.
Yeah. So me and my, I can't cuss on this podcast, so I can't say what we say.
I'll bleep it.
Yeah, you're just going to bleep it?
I'll bleep it.
Yeah, so me and one of my best friends, this is a perspective thing. So we are big believers in you cannot complain down. you can only complain up.
Elaborate.
So it's kind of what you were just talking about, to be honest with you.
Okay.
You were talking about like, hey, if my friends are going into a job and they really hate it, it's actually a problem within them. Like, hey, they don't want to wake up in the morning and or go home by the time that they're done with it because it takes so much. And then you miss 10 minutes of a camera angle.
After making my schedule all day, go into the gym whenever I want.
That's you complaining up. Or,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, complaining down.
Right.
Excuse me. That they can complain about their job all they want to you. They can complain up. You can't complain down.
Yeah.
So we're big believers in that. Like the person who's worth $10 million, right, that has a lot of things going for him,
Yeah.
can't complain to the person who's at 40 grand under the thumb of somebody and unhappy and unfulfilled.
Yeah, that's why whenever I'm having a bad day, you're the first person I text. Dang it. Opens my phone and texts Todd. I could be sitting in a room full of my friends and I'll just text you about it.
Yeah. Now this isn't to say like, hey, you got friends that this has nothing to do with finances.
No.
This is about understanding in life and awareness of choices, and who inevitably one person's probably in a better situation, and if the gap is large enough, like that person, that would be like the company owner complaining to the
janitor.
No, like somebody who's unhired.
Okay.
Like the janitor's making a choice to go there and they're providing a huge service that everybody wants. So
You know
like
what?
the
Yeah, you're
janitor
right.
should be loved.
Yeah.
They should be beloved. Like the company owner can't go to the street to the person who's really trying and really down on their luck and having struggles and complain to them. Like that's complaining down.
Yeah.
So you can't complain down. You can only complain up. So Dustin and I, that one of our favorite lines to each other is because we'll complain to each other. And then like one time specifically, like my favorite one, there's so many good ones, but like to not just go out on a total rant. One of the best ones is he had to send in one of his watches to get serviced. Right. And the service, instead of it being free and under warranty, the service was like $2,500. Right. This is a $70,000 watch. Okay. So like he complained to me and the next video came back and it's like, that's why nobody gives a about our problems. So that is our line to each other, is like, we'll say our piece to get it out and then go, that's why nobody gives a about our problems.
That's good.
Yeah, because that's us redirecting our perspective and
Yeah.
our shift on like, it's okay.
It's really not a problem.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like, his Alpina BMW's been down for a while. Like, I don't get the
Oh, dang.
Yeah, or one time I complained about luggage not fitting in the R8. He said something similar about his McLaren at the time. It was like, that's why nobody about our problems.
Okay.
But the reason that we do that, it's important to have close people to you that you trust, that you can have discussions with, and also have them be honest with you and redirect you, because that's the joke that we make to each other now. Just like some of the jokes that you make with your friends to like bring awareness to what like the situation that you're doing and how blessed you are.
Yeah.
Like you've told me about some of your jokes that you have back and forth with
Yeah.
your friends, that it's perfect. It's the exact same thing. So it's important to have those close people to you that, you can shift their perspective and they can shift yours. And then once you do that, you'll actually have reminders for each other.
Yeah. I like that.
You're just thinking about that watch now, aren't you? You're thinking about him complaining about his McLaren.
I am.
My
I'm
McLaren's got to go in
imagining-
for service.
I'm imagining 10-foot tall Dustin, 10-foot tall Dustin standing next to his McLaren
Yeah.
and just staring at it angry because he can't stuff the luggage into it.
His wasn't luggage. His was mine was luggage. I can tell the story, but his was, it had like a parking sensor that he would come to a stop at like a light and it would beep and it was annoying.
So annoying.
But it's a perfect example of like
Yeah.
perspective. Like that actually throws people off in a day.
Yeah.
Like something that little.
Yeah.
And the reason for us making the jokes back and forth is to put us back into a space of balance and go, I get it.
Yeah.
I chose to have this problem.
Yeah. I think it's also important to like make aware that we're not saying you can't complain or you can't like,
Yeah.
you
You're
can't
human.
have a bad moment or a bad day.
Oh, you're gonna.
Yeah. But you can't let yourself dwell in it either.
Yeah. How do you respond to it?
Right.
Well, let's go back to, you were talking about how you kind of categorize yours. And if it's at this level, I get 5 minutes, and this level, I get an hour. Like, how do you Is it just through practice?
Yeah.
Do
It's just,
you reflect back and go, this one wasn't as bad as I thought, and so if I have another thing like this, I'll respond like this?
yes, that's exactly what it is. It's having a frame of reference. Like, especially in photography, I mean, I've had everything under the sun go wrong now, from like, oh, rain, you have to move your shoot. Like, that is nothing now. When I first started, if I had a rainy day and had to move my schedule around, I wanted to cry. Like, that was horrible.
Really?
Yes. Like, the thought of like moving my schedule because it stressed me out about money and things like that. Now it's like the biggest problem that could happen is like my camera actually breaks in the middle of a shoot, but that actually happened. No, I'm kidding. That's not the biggest problem. That happened.
Well, you're on like R6 number 6 right now.
Yes,
so
this
yeah.
is I've been through my share of cameras, but that's not even actually that's happened, and it was sucked for a minute, but then I went out and fixed the problem. So I think it is just having a frame of reference and having the experiences to like look back on and be like, okay, this happened and this is comparable, and so this is how long it should probably take to fix it. Like when my first R6 broke, I had to, it was like a night shoot, so I was done by like 6:00.
Yeah.
And
just for a frame of reference, R6 is like a couple grand.
yeah, an R6, the one when it broke, it was like $2,600.
Okay.
So
it's, I mean, it's a sizable investment.
yeah, I think. Don't quote me on that. Google it yourself. But yeah, a good
They're
size
$900
investment.
now.
Yeah, good size investment. And it was like 6:00 at night. And so I went home and I was like, this sucks so bad. I was so stressed and like overwhelmed. I just gave myself the night. I was like, I'm just going to go to bed now. I just read a book in bed and went to sleep. Like that was the night.
Yeah.
I just ended my day. But then the third time it happened,
It's just another one of these.
yeah, the third time it happened, I gave myself like 5 minutes to be frustrated about it. And then I picked up my other camera and moved on.
All right. So that brings us to now a big focus of this podcast is obviously bringing the mental back to the financial, because, we want to talk about financial favor and our goals to end financial suffering. So we have to, how do we bring this into finances, right? How does this affect our finances? How does this affect our, financial stability over the longevity? So now that you've experienced this quote unquote problem, multiple times, now instead of losing an entire night, reading a book, going to bed and losing the rest of the night, now you got 5 minutes for this tier of problem and you go, it's just another one of these. Is a piece of that because you're financially stable? Like this doesn't financially cripple you?
Oh, absolutely. Because the first time it happened, it was like, oh, well, the first time it happened with my other camera, not with the R6, because by the time I had an R6, I was more financially stable. The first time I had a camera
you have to be
break.
able to buy an R6 at that point.
Yes.
Yeah.
The first time I had a camera break, because at the time, I was paying monthly payments on my camera to pay it off.
Yeah.
I was paying like $200 a month to get it paid off with the lens and everything. The first time I had a camera break, it was like crippling. Like I literally cried for like an hour because I thought like, oh, this is horrible. I'm never going to be able to be a photographer anymore.
Yeah.
This is awful.
That's it.
And I thought, this is it. This is the end. It was not the end.
Turns out it wasn't.
It was an easy problem to solve in hindsight. But at the time, because I wasn't financially stable, I couldn't just pull the money out of my account and pay for it.
Yeah.
It was a big deal.
I watched you early on in your career sacrifice your own health and life for your camera one time.
He did. Maybe I would do it again because it was instincts. It was instincts that did that. But
you want to tell that story really quick so people have context?
Yeah. So I was walking outside.
And the best part is that we caught this on a security camera of one of the buildings that we own.
There is video footage.
There's video footage of this.
So I'm walking into the studio to do a photo shoot, and it's cold, very cold, and there's a patch of ice, and everything's your fault. Because yes. I didn't, like, everything's my fault. I mean, not yours, but everything's my fault because I didn't salt the ice. And this is my studio.
Ownership.
So in hindsight, I'm grateful I fell and not somebody else.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful it wasn't the client that was coming in. Because I immediately went and got salt after, diagnosing my concussion.
After stumbling.
So, me walking into the studio, so great, happy, joyful, holding my camera in my hand. It wasn't even in a bag.
I remember.
Holding my camera in my hand, slip on ice, like banana peel, full blown, feet in the air, slip, feet above my head, and hold my camera up and smack my back of my head on the pavement.
Save my camera.
Yeah, my camera was great.
I will sacrifice my own skull and well-being.
Yeah, and we had a video of it. It was great.
Well, like you said, it's instinct. So
that was instinct, yeah. It wasn't necessarily a choice. But if it was my head or my camera, it would probably be the camera today.
Yeah, so in bringing that back to finances and just understanding that the actions that you took up to that point is what helped you create stability in your perspectives.
Yeah.
So I think that's important to recognize. I don't think that's something that gets talked about much. So you're going to be more emotional and you're going to react more than you respond when you're financially struggling. And then the question becomes, well, how do I get better?
Yeah, because it sounds like you're just running like you're running on a wheel.
Which is exactly what people do.
Yeah.
And they struggle to get off that wheel, right? So I think this is a really good conversation and really good understanding to practice and really look at yourself in and go, okay, in this perspective, how can I change how I respond? Because if I don't change how I respond, I'm never going to get better at the root of this problem. So I'm never going to see a better outer result in my finances, in my life, in my time, in my control, in my choices. So how do I do that? And I think it really begins with some of the things that you've been discussing, which is I have to be able to step back and look at each scenario as they come throughout the day. And there's so many scenarios throughout the day. You're like, where do I even start?
There's so many places for things to go wrong.
Yeah.
There's so many opportunities for you to look at something and look at it from the wrong direction. Yeah, the wrong perspective.
And to understand that it's human nature to go, if I do 10 things in a day, 9 of them go perfectly and then one goes wrong, which one do I focus on?
Exactly.
It's going to be that one for sure.
Yeah.
Like, how do I step back and recognize, like, I'm really grateful for the 9 that went well?
Yeah.
Because the 9 that went well, I can grow off of and step off of. And the one that didn't, like, if I don't leave that behind or if I don't just take my lesson from it and then improve from it, like, I'm going to be stuck in that cycle. And that's when your choices start to become repetitive. That's when you build your habits. That's when you don't have grace for yourself. And inevitably what ends up happening is your finances go like wherever they want to go. It's not where you're choosing them to go. It's wherever they want to go. And it's usually based off your reactions. So I think it's interesting that you brought that to the light of my classification of the tier level of the problem went from major to minor over the course of it happening a couple times. Now, what if you wouldn't have stepped back, reflected on it, and you would have kept it at that high tier problem level? We wouldn't have recorded a podcast the other day because you had to go get another camera the other day.
Yeah, this happened the other day. The R6 problem, we literally had it happen a week ago.
Yeah, it just happened.
And we went to Best Buy and fixed the problem.
Again, yeah, so like you would have lost another day. So we would have lost progress, we would have lost momentum, and we would have been recycling back to hopefully where we could have gotten back to or where our goal was to get to that day. So you would have lost a week.
Yeah, it would have been 1 step forward, 2 steps back. If you don't find the ability to step away from the problem and really evaluate it and ground yourself, you're just going to keep having the same problems knock you down.
So how'd you learn that? You're only 20. People don't usually learn that till sometimes they never learn it. There might be people watching this right now going, I'm 40 and I've never thought of it that way.
How did I learn that?
How'd you learn that?
Well, I mean, I guess
it's okay if you take a minute, but if I would be interested in knowing how you learned that, though.
I mean, I guess learning how to fail. And
learning how to fail well, you mean?
Yeah, how to fail well. In allowing grace, when something goes wrong. I don't know.
You're like, I'm going to have to think about this.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of the first time that I realized that I was getting better at it. Mm-hmm. But honestly, that was today. When it really dawned on me that I was getting better.
I know the exact moment that I learned it.
When did you learn it? Please share with me.
The exact moment. It's a great story. It's one of my parents' favorite stories too. Okay, so if you don't know anything about my background, my whole goal was to play professional baseball. So, that was I ate, drank, and slept baseball up until I was 24. But big time, obviously, middle school, high school, travel ball all over the country, played Division I college. During that Division I college, played at a minor league stadium, and stadium was packed. It was against a rival, and I think they call it the Diamond Classic. I can't remember exactly what they call the series. But anyways, we played at the local minor league stadium. It was a newer stadium at the time. Beautiful place. It's awesome. Place is packed, right? Absolutely packed. It was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had being on the mound. Now, I go out on the mound, 7th or 8th inning, and I come out and I get a quick out, and the next batter, the first pitch I go to throw, my spike gets caught on the rubber, and I barrel roll off the mound.
Okay.
This is in front of scouts. This is in front of family. This is in front of friends. This is in front of however many thousands and thousands of people are there. Again, place was packed, place was roaring. And so I had every person in that stadium pointing and laughing at me. I actually threw a strike, but I let the ump pass on that one due to me barrel rolling off.
He was probably slightly distracted by the man
a little bit
doing roly-polies down.
I was off the side of the mound. I mean, I did full, like, my back met the dirt, and then, like, the feet pop up, and then you, like, land on your
Dead
feet.
bug.
I mean, I'm telling you, I was full barrel roll. But the reason that I think that's really the first time that I remember perspective is that I had thousands and thousands and thousands of people pointing and laughing. My parents included. My mom right there in the front row.
And you're like, Mom, this is serious.
This is serial. Yeah, so I was taking something so serious at that point, which I'm a super competitive guy, so that's going to happen. Like, if I get ultra competitive, my eyes just go black and I'm going to win. So in that moment, though, I was able to reflect later and recognize that it didn't affect my performance. Like, me staying consistent and acting above and beyond that, it wasn't as big of a deal as I thought. Like, as soon as it happened, you're in a state of confusion and loss. And I hope somebody watching this was at that game. And then go, confirmed.
Somebody has a video somewhere. Somebody somewhere has a video of that.
Yeah. So no joke. Like so there's videographers throughout this entire thing. Like, there's pictures of me pitching at that game. I think all of them missed it because they all went at the same time, like. And then they went, no, I should have shot that. Like, I can't believe I missed that shot. Yeah, so I think that was really when I think about, hey, when did I start learning about reflection and perspective? I think that's the exact moment. I think it's that game. I think it's that night. It's the next day.
So how did you handle it?
I got out of the inning.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. Now, that might have been by just through blind competitiveness at that point. And when you're locked in like that, you block everything out. Like, you're an athlete. Like, you understand. Like, you're not
gonna cry and run off the field. You got to get through the inning.
Right, exactly. So I remember getting through the rest of the inning. I went out and pitched the next inning too.
Okay.
Actually, if I remember correctly. So, but I remember that moment. I'll never forget that moment because that was a true lesson in I could have just adopted what everybody else was doing and thinking, which can actually move us into like a big point of something that we've talked about is being able to take in information from a neutral state and then make your own decision based on your own perspectives and your own experiences instead of just defaulting to whoever's the most emotional in the room and making you feel something.
That's a really good point. Like, especially in
mine just happened to be with 30,000 people.
Yeah. But like, even when you're working, say you're working on a team or in a group, if something happens, like if I'm working with 3 other photographers and one of them has their camera break or, like something bad happens, not picking up on what everybody else is feeling and saying, or even being able to be the voice of reason in that room.
Yeah.
It's going to alleviate the situation so much. Mm-hmm. So being able to be like, hey guys, everything's good. Just step back. We'll be good.
That's why I was curious if you knew where
the moment.
Yeah. If you had a moment or if you knew a specific time that you remembered that stuck with you, because a lot of times it comes from someone else being a voice of reason and going like, why were you so calm during this or that moment? Like, how did you do that? You just told me a story about a friend reaching out to you, asking you about some advice, and that's what he's picking up on in you is like, how are you so calm during these moments? Why aren't you affected by, the noise and the rumors or the politics or whatever it may be? You're just continuing to build. Like, how have you been able to do that? So I think that's interesting.
I can't think of an exact moment. Like I'm sure there is one, but in my mind, I'm not thinking of a moment like that. That's a good moment.
That's also a tough one to forget.
I've never tripped over a baseball mound and rolled in front of thousands of people. So I can't say that I had that moment. I'm sure there's one, but I can't think of one. But like I said, I think it just like it does. I don't think I know it comes from experience. So there's definitely been moments. I just can't think of one in my head.
And it's funny too how over time that becomes, we get to laugh about it.
Oh, it's hindsight.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
You look back and you're like now you're like, it was really funny that I rolled.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful it happened.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe I'm saying that I'm grateful that it happened. Like, on what planet would I have been grateful for something like that happening?
Yeah.
During such a moment that I had looked forward to for literal years.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that I can think of is like, because I think this applies to everything, any sort of crisis and stuff, being able to like take yourself out of it and put it in perspective. I don't even want to talk about it. Like, I don't want to talk about the breakup, but like, I just went through a breakup and I had people coming to me for the entire month after the breakup asking, how are you handling this so well? Mm-hmm. Are you okay? Like, are you acting like you're okay? Or are you actually okay?
Except one person.
You. You're the only person who's like, nah, you're good. I know you're good.
Gangster.
Yeah, I think I said to you, I was like,
test passed.
after so many people had asked me, I think I came to you and I was like, am I okay? Or am I like, do you think I'm good? Like, and you were like, no, you're fine. You're so good. Yeah. But like that, so I think that translates there too, is like, I was able to take myself out of it, look at it and find all of the reasons why it needed to happen. Mm-hmm. And I'm grateful that it happened now.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that the things that happened leading up to that and like getting out of where I was in that point in my life, like I am so grateful it happened.
Yeah. And what's great about that too is I love that you got there so quickly. I think that's amazing. Even if the other party isn't, like in this scenario, if he's struggling right now, I don't know if he is or not, but let's just say he is. In the future, when he's with the person that he's supposed to be with, he will also be grateful for that moment. He'll be grateful for your strength. Let me give you an example of that. Like, this is a very personal, like, example of that. You didn't even know I was engaged previous.
I had no idea until you told me. Let me tell you about the story of my previous engagement when I was going through my breakup.
Yeah, let me tell you about it right now then. What better time than do it on camera with you?
In front of everybody watching.
In front of everybody. So I was previously engaged before marrying Denise, right? Now, she was the one who broke it off, and she was the one who made that decision. Frankly, she was the one who was strong enough at the time to make that happen. Me reflecting back on that now, I am endlessly grateful for her being strong enough to do that because I wasn't in that moment.
We wouldn't be here right now if that didn't happen.
No, I would be divorced and off somewhere else for sure because we were already having those symptoms, right? But I wasn't strong enough. I wasn't strong enough mentally in my awareness. I wasn't strong enough mentally in my perspective and understanding of thinking long-term, nothing. I was very short-term at that time, which a lot of young people are. I'm not condemning myself for that. But being able to look back on it now, that's why when you went through that and you were the strong one, I know that's a good thing for him too.
Oh, absolutely. I told him that when we talked about it.
Yeah.
Like I was like, you're going to find the person you're supposed to be with.
Yeah.
And I guess that was a big perspective moment for me too.
Oh yeah. That was huge. Other people aren't thinking like that.
Yeah.
That's why I'm
but because I was living in it, like now that I'm reflecting, I'm like, oh, actually now that I think about it, that was a big perspective moment. Being able to be like when we broke up, because at the time you're like, oh, I'm going to spend like the rest of my life with him. Like I'm going to marry him. I have it set up. So it took me a week. 1 week. I had 1 week where I was like upset about it. And I was upset because I had to rearrange my future kind of. Like I was like, oh, gotta like resettle myself, redirect myself. But I gave myself 1 week and then I was fine.
While traveling in Argentina.
I was in
going
Mexico.
To all of your favorite concerts. Nobody gives up about your problems.
No, this is perfect. I was in Brazil in an Uber to my huge hotel.
Yeah.
This really nice hotel. And I was eating like this, like we got literally a feast for dinner.
I know. I got pictures.
You did.
I was eating a cheeseburger that night.
Yeah. I was in Brazil getting ready to get on my flight to Mexico after being in 4 other countries in South America and seeing my favorite band 6 times over in total.
Yeah.
And I was going through a breakup and I gave myself 1 week to figure it out.
Yeah.
There's an example of the 1 week thing. I told myself, I was like, I have 1 week to really mope over this. And then we're going to be fine. It's
such great grace. Like you gave yourself grace. You gave yourself the opportunity to be human and feel something. It's important to be able to, like a lot of people try to save other people from feelings. I think that's another thing too. Like, hey, are you okay? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Are you okay? Let me save you. Can I save you?
Yeah.
Can I make sure that you don't feel anything but positive at all times? Which that's not good.
It's not good at all.
No, it's important that you go through and you feel those things and you sit in them for a while. So I think it's great that you quote unquote sat in it for a week.
Yeah.
And you gave yourself a week.
Oh, the week in Mexico, I took a nap every day. I was like, I mean, I felt bad because I was at dinner with friends and I was just sitting at dinner, like just sitting. Like,
Yeah.
but that week I needed that week. And I'm so glad because it happened at the perfect time. The stars aligned because I was out of town and that week was not the rest of my trip. It was almost my entire trip. And when I returned home, it was like I was a brand new person.
Yeah.
I genuinely feel like I'm a different person from those 3 weeks that I left for South America. Like in those 3 weeks I came back and I'm a different person.
Yeah.
So like by the time I got home, it worked out perfectly and my perspective had completely shifted and I was in go mode again and I was like back in girl boss mode.
Girl boss mode.
Yeah.
Continue, girl boss.
So I guess that's a really good example of it. I didn't think about it like that. I didn't think about that being like a perspective thing.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
That's you taking in information and sharing your experiences and going, I get to respond to this.
Yeah.
You didn't just react. You weren't at the mercy, which really goes back to the root of you have growth mindset. You're not fixed minded. You're not a victim. Like you get to make the choices that you do that will create your outer results, ranging from finances and your teachings and what you intake to relationships.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I love that stuff.
I didn't think I'd be talking about this on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now you know a little bit about my prior engagement.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have no idea if she's alive now, but
Oh, okay. Awesome. I'm sure she is.
I'm sure she is. I'm sure she's fine. I'm
sure she's doing
good.
great.
And honestly, I hope she is.
Yeah.
I hope whoever she's with is great. I hope family's great. Like all of that.
Yeah.
I really do. Cause I am grateful for her being strong enough in that moment, even if it was based out of emotion and like, it wasn't even what she was thinking or what she was like, her goal was, but I'm endlessly grateful for that. And it's amazing to see how things work out the way that they're supposed to, and being able to step back and go.
I think also when you do step back, like when you have that moment and you're like, okay, I need to really think about like what's happening. Why am I angry? Like, why is this problem happening? Being able to think, I'm going to look back on this and I'm either going to have learned something. I'm going to be grateful for it.
Yeah.
Like it's inevitable that bad things are going to happen, but being able to really reflect on it later. Yeah.
And what it does is it gives you perspective and it gains you that experience. And I've already dealt with this before. So you can solve so many of your problems by gaining perspective through researching the past. So if you look at big moments in life, big moments in economics, big moments in history, you're able to see patterns and you're able to see it's just another one of these. These people survived. I'll be fine. Like a lot of people default to
the world is ending and
I mean, the sky is falling stuff for sure. People love that. But also it could be on the politics side. I mean, you can look back the past 40 years and the opposite party of who won is always thinking what people are thinking right now.
yeah.
When in reality, we are a ground up society. We start and we build and we make mistakes. We're not very good at predicting mistakes, but we're very good at overcoming them and being strengthened by them and then adapting. We're very good at adapting.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're right.
And now we're overheating.
I know.
Here's a perspective change. We've been fighting through overheating.
Yeah. and here's a perspective change because we saw the problem happen and we were like,
we got better.
Yeah. As we're talking right now, Todd's camera is overheating and we're getting the button for it. But in the middle of this, when we talked earlier about how we can flip the screen, we learned from our past mistakes.
Yeah.
And we watched the camera overheat and we discovered that's what happened on the podcast episode before this. The camera overheated and it shut off.
So you guys got the solution the same time we did.
Yeah. You're watching this happen in real time.
Yeah.
But we learned from it and then we just turned our cameras off and we were like, all right, let's just sit and chill for 10 minutes while we let it underheat.
It's more important to focus on progress than immediate result.
Yeah.
Because if we just focus on immediate result, we're going to be stuck in a short-term cycle that never works.
Yeah.
So one of the ways that you can change your perspective is through observation. Observation is really important. So I'm going to put you on the spot.
Oh.
I want you to tell your Five Guys story.
I didn't want to tell a story. Okay.
So here's why I want you to tell the story. It's a great example of you being able to take yourself out of a situation. And this isn't a story of like, hey, I did a nice thing, so therefore it loses its validation because I'm sharing it. That's not the purpose of this. The purpose of this is to show that you were able to take yourself out of a situation, respond instead of react, and change your perspective through observation, because we can all do that every single day, which goes back to Dustin and I's joke about nobody gives a rip about our problems, because we're like, that's how we shift our perspective. That's how we do our observation practice. So I just want to I want you to tell your
Okay,
5
I'll give you like the summed up version of it. I wasn't
Okay.
gonna tell the story like he just said because I was like, oh, if you do something nice, then it doesn't count if you have to tell people about it. So,
which I absolutely agree with. If you're doing
but
something,
it has value here.
Yes,
Okay.
you're doing this for educational purposes and for relational purposes, not for I want a like.
Yeah.
There's a difference between doing something positive in the world and it becoming the gym selfie, where you don't you've never been to the gym if you don't take a selfie and post it online.
Yeah.
You never do anything good unless you get your validation for it through others. Like, that's not that's not this.
Okay. So
It is different.
yeah. So I was having a not so great day. One of those days where you wake up and you're like, this is like a week ago, where you're like not feeling it. And I had a raging migraine. Like I literally felt like someone took a steel toe boot and stepped on my head.
So now we got frying pan and we got steel, but you got a real steel.
Yeah.
It was a real steel.
Yeah,
or
I've
iron
been
problem.
dealing with them lately. So I had a migraine and I went to the gym and I wasn't the best workout that I had. Like I just wasn't 100%. So then after the gym, I was like, okay, what could I do to like make my day a little better? I was like, let's go get some pulp. So I
Get
went
some what?
pulp
Pulp.
smoothie.
Pulp.
I was like,
Smoothie.
I could use a smoothie right now. I'm tired and they have one with Red Bull in it. I was like, that sounds lovely. It wasn't lovely. It actually ended up making my head hurt worse.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Anyway, it's besides the point. I go to Pulp and get my smoothie. I walk out of Pulp and there is a homeless guy sitting on the sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks at me and he smiles at me and he tells me, I hope you have a really good day, with like the most cute smile. And like he was just so nice to me. And I said, thank you. And I walked to my car. Keep in mind, my car is parked in the street right in front of him. So he's sitting right in front of my car. I walk to my car. I open the door. I get in the car. I close the door. Put the cup in the cup holder. And then I open the door and I walk out of the car and I walk up to him and I'm like, have you eaten today? And he says, no, I haven't. And I was like, hold on, what do you like on your burger? I'll be right back. I go into Five Guys and I get him a burger and I give him food.
Get him a $67 burger.
The most expensive food on the
You
strip,
get
of
him a
course.
top tier burger.
It was the food that was right in front of us. It was next to the Pulp. So I went in and I got him Five Guys, a burger and fries and like, whatever he wanted on it. And I gave him the food. And one, it felt really good for me because it made my day 10 times better because he got to eat and he was so happy about it. He was so grateful that he like got food. And it also shifted my perspective because I realized my problems are not that big.
Yep.
Me not being productive today because I have a migraine, I still get to go home to my house. Mm-hmm. I still get to eat. I just bought an $8 smoothie from Pulp.
Yeah.
And I'm getting into my 2023 car.
Yeah.
To drive away from this guy who has bigger problems.
And
would kill to have my problems.
And made the step to wish you
yes
to
tell
have a
me
good
to
day.
have a happy a
So
good
he
day.
actually came from a selfless place.
Yes.
While you were walking around in your own cloud.
In my own world, like just sulking under this little cloud over my head that was following me down the sidewalk. Yeah.
Just envisioning this little rain cloud over
Me
top of you.
Like stomping down the sidewalk with my head down with a cloud over my head. And this guy has the audacity to look at me in the eye and make me realize that my life isn't that bad. How dare he?
Yeah, the audacity.
Yeah. So there's like an outside observation.
That is how you can use observation. I'm a huge believer that there's somebody that started off worse off than you that's further ahead than you.
Yeah.
So your excuses are just that. Your excuses are your excuses. Your lack of perspective is your lack of perspective. And you needing to find your fulfillment in being right is very dangerous and will almost ensure your failure and your lack of growth and your lack of perspective and your narrow-mindedness because you find your fulfillment in being right. So I think that's really important that you were able to be aware enough to observe what's around you and go, anybody here would probably trade spots with me. And here I am sulking in my spot because I've decided that this isn't enough in this moment. So coming from a place of awareness, a good place of observing, a place of gratitude, a place of reflection, like when you put all of those things together, you become limitless. That's why I wanted you to share that story.
Yeah. And then I came here. I was like, man, Todd, did I have a perspective change? And that's how we came up with this topic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you didn't want to share it. And I was like, well, I want you to share it,
Yeah.
but I understand why you hesitated.
Yeah.
Because you didn't want to be perceived as the person, I just did this good thing to get likes.
I did this so I could tell the story about it on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just obviously not the case. That's
Yeah.
why I was like, I want to call this out. I want to make sure that this happens, because that happens all day long, every day. The world would be a better place if people were more aware and observed that about themselves and about others, and at the end of the day, come from a place of gratitude for what you have. And which, by the way, being grateful for what you have and like what's around you and the opportunity around you, it's not a place of, well, if I'm grateful for that or I stay content with that, I won't grow. That's the most ridiculous thing.
No.
It's one of the most disgusting arguments I've ever heard for staying the same.
Being grateful is not the equivalent of not being driven.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
But just because being grateful does not mean you're stagnant.
Right.
If anything, being grateful should be what pushes you to do more.
Without question.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're hitting all the points.
Yeah.
You can just keep it going. Just keep it rolling. Keep the momentum going. Momentum's real. Motivation's not. Like, that's just...
There's no motivation.
When's the last time that motivation was there when you needed it?
I can't recall this.
Not a single time.
Not a single time when I've been like, I really need some motivation. If I'm saying I need motivation right now, where am I going to get some motivation?
Never, but you do develop it. And
Yeah.
It's building momentum.
Yeah.
All right. What challenge do you have for people? Think of something. I want off the top of your head. Challenge for people to become more well-rounded, have a better perspective, and how to practice. It can be one thing.
The next time that you have something that is just like a little blip in your day, or maybe even a bigger blip, set a amount of time for yourself that you think would be an adequate amount of time to go through it and feel for it, and then step back from it while you're in that time, really evaluate it, and find grace and be grateful for the things that you should be, and try to really evaluate your perspective on it.
Yeah, one of the things that I learned recently, this one really hit home for me. It was, a lot of people will give grace or be grateful and be thankful when the thing that they want to happen happens. But very few and far between do I hear someone be grateful for when God doesn't provide the thing that they wanted. And that's what we've been talking about here.
Yeah.
Is how can you show up? How can you be grateful and understanding and praise and have faith when the thing doesn't show up, or when you believe he doesn't show up? That's the real one for me, because if we're talking about the stories that we shared with the breakup and my prior engagement.
Did I want to rearrange my life through a breakup? Did I want that? No.
Yeah.
But after reflection, did I need that? Absolutely. And is it going to push my life in a good direction? Is it putting me on the path that I need to be on? 100%.
If that doesn't happen, you're probably not sitting here right now.
What? Oh,
If the breakup doesn't, you're probably not
No.
sitting here right now. We already confirmed that I definitely wouldn't be. I don't know where I would be.
Yeah.
But you probably wouldn't be, because you would have that extra thing happening. You'd be fighting for that extra thing. You would have that extra complication in your day.
and my energy wouldn't be here.
Your capacity,
Yeah.
it just wouldn't be there.
And I'm growing so much from this already. This whole podcast experience, I don't, if you guys have noticed, but from the first episode, we're only like 5 episodes in.
Yeah.
I've talked more than I've talked at all.
Well, the thing is, too, well, they're only going to have 4 at this point, because the one is probably lost.
So 4 episodes.
But if you think about it, it's incredible to watch the difference between 1 and 5.
yeah.
So that's why I'm so excited. I think I was saying it earlier. I'm so excited. I want to see the difference between 6 and 10.
Yeah.
And I want to see the difference for 6 months from now, and 12 months from now, and 2 years from
Yeah.
now. Like, I am genuinely excited for that. Like, I'm coming from that angle.
Yeah.
I'm not coming from, man, I really need these first few to pop off. No, like, I want to see the progression. I want to see the difference in the comments. I want to see the difference in like you guys sharing with us, like what you guys think of it, what your opinion is on Scrooge McDuck. Like I want to have those conversations. That's what I'm so excited for. It has absolutely nothing to do with like, if you think of it as A to B, I don't give a rip about A.
I
give
remember
everything about B.
You texted me when I was in South America. I think I was in like the first or second country, and you said, we should do a podcast. Like, this is crazy, but I think we should do a podcast, and I think you should do it with me.
Yeah.
And I said, you're insane. I said,
I think that's actually the text I got
what
back.
I said. You're insane. And then 2 weeks later, I went through the breakup, and now I'm here. I think you're right. I wouldn't have done it without. Like,
I don't think you could have.
No.
I don't think you would have been in a space to be able to do it.
Yeah. And I'm grateful for it.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm here.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here if it weren't for it.
Yep. So we want to hear from you guys. Like, tell us in the comments, like, let's have a discussion, because we'll be down there answering questions. We'll be down there having the conversations with you guys. So what do you guys want to hear about? What in this conversation resonated with you? Do you have a specific scenario in which you can look back at and go, you know what, that actually might be my Todd rolling off the mound spot. That's me barrel rolling off the mound, and I just recognized that everything after that moment has actually been an improvement. And I didn't recognize that until right now. Do you have a moment like that? Because we would love to hear about that. You can interact with us on Instagram and TikTok and all the other social medias, obviously here on YouTube. But I like your challenge too, is the next time that something gives you a feeling of any sort, sit on it, feel the feel. It's okay to feel the feel, and then reflect on it and go, how could this change? How could I improve this in the future?
How can I systematize this for next time?
Yeah. How can I make these become just another one of those?
Yeah. And tell us about that. If from now you watch this video and then, next week you have this problem and you do that, I want to hear about that too. I would love to hear like your experience with stepping back if you've never tried that before. Yeah.
I want to hear from you now. I want to hear from you 6 months from now, a year from now. And if you want to get involved in our private community, there will be a link in the description down below where you'll have an opportunity to join, and we would love to interact with you there.
Thanks, guys.
The thumbs.